Hello, my name is Joan Bruno. My father was born in Italy. He was born in the northern part of Italy, near the lakes, with the Alps as a backdrop and the hillsides. We went to visit his hometown in Sandro in 1975. I traveled at that point with my Nonna, my Aunt Marie, and my Uncle Joe, who just passed away. And that trip was very memorable, and it really connected me with my Italian heritage. Now, every time I've been back to Italy since that date, and I have been to Italy several times, I've always had to make note of the beauty of the countryside and how glorious the sky, the backdrops, the architecture, the very structure of the country works to create a very beautiful image for any visitor. No wonder it is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world. If you have to go to Italy, you don't have to go to the lakes. You don't have to go to the city of Rome. You could go anywhere, and you would still have the same wonderful experience, I'm sure. My last trip, the way that I met Rudy, was we went to Sorrento together and explored the Amalfi Coast, including the city of Sorrento, Napoli, Pompeii, and the beautiful island of Capri. And when we went to Capri, one of the sites that we saw was called the Caesar Augusta Gardens. I was looking forward to that very much because the Italian gardens have always held a fascination for me because of my connection with the Mount. Now, I've been working at the Mount as a tour guide, or it does not, this will be only my second year there. But all of the time that you're at the Mount, you're reminded of Italy. That's because Edith Wharton loved Italy. In her youth, she spent a great many of her formidable years in Italy. And she recounts in her autobiography called A Backward Glance the time in which she was raised as a little child, running around the Roman Forum and just exploring the natural grass and the beautiful gardens that she saw there. She learned to speak Italian. And when she finally got to the time in her life when she had enough money, enough influence, and enough freedom to build her own home, she chose to build it in Lenox. And she loved Lenox. She said, life in the country is the only state that really satisfied her. And if she had found it sooner, she would never have given any thought to the literary delights of London or of Paris. And while she was building her house in Lenox called the Mount, she rejoiced so much in the natural scenery and in the fact that she was creating for herself a wonderful environment for her own writing, that she claimed to a friend that she would never leave Lenox again, except perhaps go to Italy. Now, Edith Wharton, she went to Europe many times in her life. They think that she may have crossed the Atlantic 60 times in her lifetime. And Italy was always one of her most favorite destinations. Now, when she was in Lenox from the years of 1901 to 1910, in that period of time, the books that she wrote and published were often of Italian themes. The first was called The Valley of Decision, and that was just a novel set in 18th century Italy. Then she was commissioned to write a series of articles for Century magazine by Mr. Gilder, whose heritage connected back to Terringham. He was the publisher at Century. And this series of articles was Italian villas and their gardens, and that's really the main topic of conversation for this television show. Now, Italian villas and their gardens was published in the periodical, and then it was made into a book and published as well. And then that led on to her really breakthrough moment in 1905 when she wrote The House of Mirth. Now, The House of Mirth was Edith Wharton's assault on the bestseller list. Its rise in fame, its popularity among the readership, and this was a time when people read books, made her one of the most famous women in America. And that novel really exposed a high society in New York, the one that Edith Wharton was born into. And after the publication and the success of that novel, Edith Wharton was able to complete what she really had wanted to create at her estate in Lenox, but she took her time. She made a French garden. She began a lime walk, and then finally was able to create at the other end her Italian garden, or what she called her secret garden. Now, Edith Wharton, when she was doing her research for her book, Italian Villas and Their Gardens, she had actually gone and explored all of these wonderful gardens that she describes in the book. And I happen to have a couple of really good, we would call before and afters. In her book, she, what she did was, well, she described the gardens in great detail, including architectural details and describing things that were really very esoteric. But she's able to do that because she has a singular genius in this direction. And the publisher, which was Scribner's, hired Maxfield Parrish, who was one of the most famous illustrators of his day, to visit the gardens and to create the illustrations for the book itself. Now, Edith was not very satisfied with these, even though they are very beautiful, and I am going to show them to you because they really capture in one way the essence of the mystical and magical gardens that Edith describes. But when she goes into that sort of the detail of the architecture, she would really expect that they would include more diagrams of the actual physical structures of the gardens themselves. When the reviewers came back and lamented that it was missing in the publication, she had a big "I told you so" for Scribner's. However, these beautiful prints by Maxfield Parrish describing the Italian gardens, and I think capturing them so well, as you will see. So I have a couple of examples of Maxfield Parrish's drawings and things that I found that represent the gardens as they appear today. And you see that he had a sort of mystical, you lose detail, but you still get the perspective, which is so beautiful. So now I just wanted to show a couple of those.